Puget Sound Naval Shipyard has been the temporary home to many famous and important ships, including the battleship Missouri, on whose decks the Japanese surrendered at the end of World War II, the USS Hornet, which made history recovering the astronauts of the ill-fated Apollo 13 mission, and the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise, and most recently, Bremerton has its first permanently home-ported aircraft carrier, the USS CARL VINSON. Otherwise known as the Gold Eagle, CVN70 is a 100,000-ton aircraft carrier, the third in the Nimitz class.
Keel was laid in October of 1975. She was christened in March of 1980, so you get a sense of just the size of the ship by basically the time that it took to construct this ship.
She launched on March 15, 1980. 27,000 people viewed the ceremony, including the vessel's namesake, the former Georgia Congressman Carl Vinson. Representative Vinson is the first person in U.S. history to witness a warship launched in his honor. Carl Vinson was born in Baldwin County, Georgia, on November 18, 1883, the son of Edward S. and Annie Morris Vinson. Carl attended Georgia Military College in Milledgeville and graduated from the Mercer University Law School with a Bachelor of Law degree in 1902. The young attorney began to practice law in June of that same year. 2 years later, he was appointed the Baldwin County prosecutor, beginning a career of more than 60 consecutive years of service in public office. In 1909, he was elected to the Georgia General Assembly and served until 1912. During his second term, he served as Speaker pro temp. Vincent returned to Baldwin County in late 1912 to serve as county court judge. The same year that the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand in Sarajevo plunged Europe into the beginnings of World War I, Carl Vincent was elected to the U.S. Congress. The year was 1914. Voters in his congressional district returned Representative Vincent to Washington for 26 consecutive terms. He became the dean of Georgia's congressional delegation, usually running against only token opposition. In his first major speech on national defense, Vincent stated his conviction that the nation's military needs must be determined without partisan political pressure, and he predicted the growth of the world's navies. Soon, his interest in sea power earned him a seat on the House Naval Affairs Committee, from which he was to help guide the United States to a position of world leadership of the seas. In 1931, Vincent became chairman of the committee, where he earned the nickname the Admiral.
Committee, please come to order.
As chairman of the Naval Affairs Committee, Representative Vinson guided the passage of what was then the greatest peacetime program of national defense legislation in U.S. history.
He was an architect of the Vinson-Trammell Act that was very important to the building of the United States Navy in the years prior to World War II. The Navy that won the war in the Pacific, I might add.
The Vincent Naval Construction Bill authorized the expenditure of $55 million. This would help bring American sea power up to parity with the London Treaty of 1922. The agreement attempted to control the ratios of battleships among the major sea powers and ensure that Britain and the United States were the dominant forces. After World War II, in 1947, the Naval Affairs Committee and the Military Affairs Committee combined into the House Armed Services Committee. Representative Carl Vincent served as chairman of the new committee for the remainder of his legislative career, with the exception of 4 years while Republicans controlled Congress, until he retired in January of 1965. The Honorable Mr. Carl Vinson served more than 50 years in the House of Representatives. His career saw America and the world through many, many changes. Carl Vinson graduated from the law school in the year before the Wright brothers flew and began public service the year following their first flight. The Admiral witnessed the growth of American air power from sputtering biplanes to supersonic jets, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and the Polaris submarine. In part because of his judgment and effort, the United States has the strongest Navy on the seas of the world today. Few men in American history have made so profound an impact on our nation's defenses. Sadly, he died in Milledgeville, Georgia on June 1, 1981, a year before his namesake was fully commissioned by the Navy on March 13, 1982.
Carl Vinson and his wife had no children, unfortunately, and we, the crew of the USS CARL Vinson, feel that the ship is truly his legacy. The ship has many of the personal belongings of the congressman that are either on display in our Carl Vinson room, or even the desk of Congressman Vinson is what the captain uses every day as his desk. Truly a tribute to the man that gave so much in public service and so much of his life dedicated to the United States Navy, that we can in fact carry on his name in this proud tradition.
The crew of CVN70 is proud to serve on the ship that bears his name, and proud to honor his outstanding service to the United States. And Carl Vinson's spirit is present in everything the ship and her crew accomplish, whether it's in far-off and exotic ports or at home in Bremerton, whether it's enforcing no-fly zones in Iraq or helping students at Bremerton Junior High School.
And a partnership for excellence with Bremerton Junior High School, which is basically a school sponsorship program. We have 20 to 25 people every week, and could have more. That's really what they've been asking for over there every week, either tutoring or mentoring or just listening to kids who are looking for somebody as somebody that they can relate to for reasons that maybe they don't have that at home right now.
The primary benefit is that it gives us another adult in the room with the kids, and the kids have an opportunity. A lot of these sailors have some very strong academic abilities in some of the areas that they've chosen to volunteer in. It gives us an opportunity to meet the sailors and to see that they're just people like the rest of us who have jobs to do and are trying to get along as best they can. And it also shows them a very positive side, the attitude that they bring to the school, and the respect with which they treat each other and they treat the students.
They help us out a lot. They do little favors for us and help the teachers out. Like if they need little things done, well, they don't have time, they help that out. So it's really good.
The one-on-one instruction's been really nice because it is a resource room, 8th grade. They are more demanding of your attention, and they have individual needs, and we have special learning goals for each of the students, and so they're all working on different kinds of things. So it's really nice to have that extra help.
I think it's really nice to have them around helping with everything. Can you help her? It's a good idea. I didn't know that they did this at all. I thought they just, did their Navy things. They didn't come to school and actually help the students and stuff.
About 12, 13 years ago, the Navy recognized a need that, hey, we need to start looking to see what we can do to help the schools here that are struggling. And this is just one way in which the Navy has participated in this program.
Sailors from the Carl Vinson have already contributed hundreds of man-hours to improving the community. The Gold Eagle has received numerous awards and commendations and has earned the highest marks ever awarded an aircraft carrier during an operational readiness examination. She twice earned the coveted Battle Efficiency Rating, known to sailors as the Battle E Award. On August 18, 1995, the ship loaded on board vintage World War II aircraft to launch during the VJ Day festivities held in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. On the 20th of that month, the ship set sail to Hawaii to participate in Exercise Kikoa 95 and the VJ Day commemoration ceremony. While cruising off the coast of Waikiki, Carl Vinson launched these vintage warbirds from his flight deck. September 1st, 1995, saw the ship serve as a reviewing platform for the International Parade of Ships and Planes. President Bill Clinton and his wife, the First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton, visited the Gold Eagle. The Carl Vinson served as the platform for the President's commemorative speech to 2,000 World War II veterans.
It's good to be back. I was on board in San Francisco in August of 1993, and now I have two of these caps, which I can proudly wear around the United States. Today, we gather to offer a commemoration and to renew a commitment. We commemorate the men and women of the Navy, the Marine Corps, and their sister services who gave everything they had to the cause of freedom. And we commit ourselves to their legacy by meeting the great demands of this age with the same determination and fortitude.
Following his speech, President Clinton and the Postmaster General Marvin Runyon unveiled a new stamp series observing World War II. In simple terms, the job of the officers and crew of the USS CARL Vinson is to launch and retrieve planes when and where they are ordered to do so. They have the task of being our forward presence anywhere in the world. They are the muscle that backs up the policies of the United States.
What we have is the mobility and flexibility to go wherever our government dictates that we be.
The ship will travel in excess of 30 knots through the water, and it will carry a complement of approximately 75 combat aircraft. Our crew assigned to the ship is just under 3,000 people, and then when the aircraft squadron and all of their pilots and personnel come aboard, then our crew complement is well over 5,000 people. So as you can tell by these numbers and this size, that the USS CARL Vinson is literally a floating Air Force base that can go literally anywhere in the world that we can navigate safely.
$5,800 people or so, you think that we probably only eat 3 meals a day, but a lot of these sailors work 18, 19 hours a day, and they're also young people. Young people bring enormous appetites with them, and we actually serve in the neighborhood of 20,000 meals a day. That's 20,000 full meals a day, a tremendous amount of food that is served, cooked, and prepared on this ship.
A lot of folks on the flight deck at any one time. Approximately 4 acres of flight deck needs to be covered by a lot of people controlling aircraft, repairing aircraft, refueling, rearming, and each person, like I said, has an individual job. A red jersey may be an ordnance man. And he may also be working for the crash and salvage team, our fire department on the flight deck. And we have green jerseys, people that operate catapults and arresting gear and or maintain aircraft. We have brown jerseys. Those are the young sailors, mind you, maybe 18, 19, 20 years old, that have the responsibility. That sole young person has a responsibility for making sure the aircraft is ready to go when the pilot comes to man up the aircraft for a launch. He's responsible for refueling the aircraft, making sure the windshield is clean, and things like that. We went to various other parts of the flight deck, and you'll see different colors. Apparently it appears to be chaos in some point in time when all these folks are running around the flight deck, but really it is really poetry in motion.
The Iraqi Army may also be preparing to attack another Kurdish city.
Off tonight, NBC News is reporting that the Clinton administration has decided there will be a military response to the Iraqi action in Kurdistan.
And so today, the USS CARL VINSON, an aircraft carrier, is moving northward in the Persian Gulf.
September 2nd, 1996. Iraqi forces continue attacks on the Kurdish refugees in northern Iraq. On the following day, the CARL VINSON and its battle group's participation in Operation Desert Watch was interrupted when directed to support Operation Desert Strike against Iraq in response to these attacks.
The President believes that this action by the Iraqi military is unjustified and there should be consequences for it.
U.S. naval cruiser USS Shiloh and its destroyer U.S. Laboon of the Vinson fleet launched 14 Tomahawk cruise missiles at targets in southern Iraq. Meanwhile, F-14D Tomcats from USS CARL VINSON provided escort protection for B-52 bombers traveling over the Gulf of Arabia from Guam.
In addition to providing air cover for the B-52s, the CARL VINSON also provided support for 2 ships. Those ships, which are part of the Vinson's battle group, fired a total of 14 missiles at the Iraqi targets.
We were ready in all forms as a part of the battle group to project power ashore in those combat operations against Iraq.
The carrier finished out its 3-month Arabian Gulf tour by enforcing the expanded no-fly zone in southern Iraq.
While we were there, because of Desert Strike and other potential adversarial actions that were going on, Enterprise also came into the Gulf. And for a while, I had 2 carrier battle groups in the Arabian Gulf itself. That's significant when you have 2 ships of that kind of projection of power, over 160 airplanes, and a variety of different support ships.
This marked the first time 2 carriers had been in the Arabian Gulf at the same time since Desert Storm. The battle group was later awarded a Meritorious Unit Citation for their efforts in the Gulf. Perhaps more notable was the ship's earning the Battle Efficiency Award, known better by sailors as the Battle E, recognizing that the CARL VINSON was the top carrier with respect to mission readiness in the Pacific for the calendar year of 1996. It marked the second time in 15 years that the ship had won this coveted title. To accomplish the task of moving a fighting vessel the size of a small city across the Pacific Ocean requires dozens, even hundreds of different skills, and all of these skills need to be able to work in conjunction with each other.
We expect a lot more out of sailors than we probably do any of our other 19 or 20 or 21-year-old youths in this country. But when you bring civilian folks on board this ship who are dealing with their own sons and daughters or other youth in other programs, and they see what a sailor's pride in his fellow sailor, in the machinery that he operates or maintains, and in himself or herself, is really quite the phenomenal thing.
These people are a focused team, intent on arriving, doing the job, and returning safely home to those who wait for the return of their loved ones from across dangerous seas. On January 17, 1997, the city of Bremerton welcomes the USS CARL VINSON. Although it was a cold and drizzly day throughout Kitsap County, the people were out in force to welcome Bremerton's first permanently home-ported aircraft carrier. The boardwalk in downtown Bremerton was the central gathering place for people young and old to greet the USS CARL VINSON. They came prepared for the weather, as some of the business community provided tents for shelter from the rain. The Bremerton High School band and drill team performed for the crowd as they waited in anticipation for the city's second Nimitz-class carrier. While many gathered at the boardwalk, others chose to view CARL VINSON's entrance from their waterfront homes and parks. As the rain summoned umbrellas to appear, the onlookers grew more restless with the delays. Finally, the moment arrived. Out of the fog, a glimpse of the vessel appeared. 244 feet high over the tree-covered hills of the Sound, she was welcomed with the warm cheers from the crowd, while a Navy helicopter provided escort through the narrow passage to the shipyard. The ship easily accommodated many of the crew's families and vehicles during this trip. Afterward, a presentation of the key to the city and a change of command took place.
Just a few short days ago, the CARL VINSON closed out 142 years of tradition in the Bay Area of San Francisco, and that was quite a sad event as we went under the Golden Gate Bridge for the last time. But now today we get a chance to start a proud tradition. 105 years, I understand, here at Bremerton, and now we have a permanently home-ported carrier, and hopefully that'll start a proud tradition here. We're certainly glad to be here. The ship looks forward to meeting new friends in the community. In fact, quite a few of our families are already here because we started this move over a year ago, and in fact it was another homecoming. We've had a couple of those since our deployment. Last year was the most successful deployment in this ship's history. It's an operating ship. We covered over 62,000 miles in traveling around and accomplished over 14,000 sorties off this ship last year as we went all over the world in the Arabian Gulf. Now we're here at our home port, and it's great to be home, and we consider this home. And so with that, we want to get in, work with the communities. This ship has a proud tradition, not only of operating, but also being very, very close to the communities it lives in and being good neighbors. And so we've already been active in making contacts in that regard. I do want to introduce my relief who's here, and I hope that everyone gets a chance to come out to the change of command. It's Wednesday the 29th at 1300, because that's our opportunity not only to change the guy at the top, but also to introduce ourselves to the communities up here and let you know a little bit about what we are about, what our traditions are, and what this ship can do and has done and will do for the communities here in Puget Sound. My relief, Captain Dave Crocker.
Come on up, Dave, so they can see it.
Who saw how a sea detail should be run today.
I'd like to see if we can get a picture with Admiral Weiss and Captain Spockman and Cocker here. Just one for the record.
We're very proud of our Navy. We're very proud of CARL VINSON, and we're very proud of our community. And those three statements should ring true in everything we do here.